Welcome to Cozy Noah Vibes, where we listen, we relax, and we get sleepy. As always, I'm your host, Noah. Thanks for tuning in. Tonight, we'll be going on a magical adventure on the coast of the Spanish island of Mallorca, following a man named Ben as he helps the mythical god Poseidon with a very important quest. This is a two-part story, and we'll have the second installment coming out in 2 days' time on Wednesday night. Cozy Noah Vibes Premium will feature both parts in one continuous long play episode that we'll be releasing as an additional bonus also on Wednesday. So, make sure you're nicely settled in, finding whatever position feels right for you at this moment. And if you find it helpful to do so, then gently slow your breathing down, easing into a comfortable rhythm that encourages a greater sense of relaxation. Just take a little time to check in with yourself. Sense any tension lingering in the body or any thoughts that are vying for your attention, and just accept and acknowledge it. Sometimes, particularly at night, we can easily end up in a kind of battle with ourselves. We often go in search of the right thing to focus on so that we can fall asleep, and that sense of looking or searching for the idyllic conditions to fall asleep sometimes ends up leaving us more flustered and disrupted than before. So, just allow your mind to wander as it pleases for a moment, without any resistance, and just accept and feel comfortable with letting go of control. Gradually, as you listen along to my voice tonight, you can allow those thoughts to subside. As each one disperses from the mind, your head can sink deeper into the comfort of your pillow. We're now ready to begin our adventure. So let's join Ben as he jets off on a dreamy trip to Mallorca. As a travel writer, Ben was used to moving around. He'd been all over the world, but this summer, he was going to a place that he'd wanted to visit for a long time, and he couldn't wait to get there. Ben specialized in writing about beaches, as these were his favorite spots. On this trip, he would be flying to Spain, one of the countries with the best beaches in the world. After doing a lot of research, Ben had decided to visit Mallorca, the largest of Spain's Balearic Islands, which are located in the Mediterranean. Here, he would stay in Puerto Cristo, a small fishing village on the eastern coast. Ben was a great swimmer, and he enjoyed diving as well. Puerto Cristo seemed to have some nice diving areas, which was what attracted him in the first place. When Ben finally boarded the plane, he could barely contain his excitement. As the airplane reached its cruising altitude, he opened the window shade and watched the clouds. The plane was flying smoothly, and the clouds looked like white fluffy cotton. Moving through the clouds reminded Ben of how he felt when he was floating in the water. He felt the same kind of lightness, like he didn't weigh a thing. For a while, he watched the changing shapes of the clouds and imagined that he was a small, light bird crossing the sky. He felt a sense of freedom, imagining that he could go anywhere in the world by flapping his wings. As he imagined this, Ben felt his body becoming even lighter. When he pictured the bird's wings moving effortlessly, his own arms and legs felt particularly light and relaxed. Relaxation finally took over his whole body, and when his eyelids fell under the spell, he calmly drifted into sleep. Some hours later, Ben was woken up by a voice coming through the airplane speakers. They were about to land. Ben fastened his seatbelt and rubbed his eyes. Through the window, he saw pieces of land that seemed to float atop the blue sea. As the plane approached the ground, the islands became clearer. Ben could see flashes of green, brown, and ivory as the trees, plants, and rock formations grew in size and detail. He was already imagining all the things that he would do once he landed. His mind and heart were filled with excitement. A little while later, Ben got on the bus to Puerto Cristo, and after a relaxing tour journey, he arrived in his hotel room. Ben was pleased to see that the room was clean and neat. The colors were a combination of white, light browns, and light blues. The bed had just been made. Ben lay down and took a deep breath. The air smelled nice and fresh, and the pillows and sheets were very comfortable. The room was not that big, but it was extremely cozy. It felt like his own personal nest. He closed his eyes and breathed slowly and deeply as he began to unwind. As he was relaxing on the bed, he felt a breeze on his feet. It was coming from a sliding door. Ben got up and stepped outside on the balcony. He caught his first glimpse of the gorgeous hotel pool. It was huge. Breathing in, he noticed that the air was salty and tasted like the ocean. As he took in the beach, scent in the view of the pool, he wanted to be at the seaside right away. He got ready and left the hotel. Once Ben was outside, the salt in the air was more evident. The breeze carried the essence of the ocean throughout the town. Ben could imagine tiny grains of sand getting tangled in his hair as it was combed by the light wind. It was about 4 in the afternoon, and the sun was just right. It was bright, but not so hot anymore. Ben felt the comforting warmth of the sun's rays as he made his way down to the beach. The sand was fine and smooth. Walking barefoot felt like being massaged by tiny beads. The water was a clear shade of blue, and some areas even shimmered turquoise under the sunlight. The ocean looked like an infinite pool of freshness and beauty. Admiring the view in front of him, Ben felt deeply relaxed. As he let the water wash over his feet, he could feel a wave of calm rising through his body. The moment felt so peaceful. He wanted to stay there forever. At last, Ben continued to make his way through the shallows. He walked slowly as the small waves lapped over his feet. Then, all of a sudden, Ben felt a slight tremor in the ground beneath him. Though it only lasted for a few seconds, he was sure that there was something unusual about the tremor, maybe even something magical, though perhaps it was just his imagination. But then he saw something peculiar out of the corner of his eye. It looked like a golden stick flying past him. Now Ben was convinced that something strange was going on. As he squinted and looked around, trying to find where the stick had come from, he noticed something else. A few meters ahead, the water was moving, and these weren't ordinary waves. Curious to see what was happening, Ben moved towards the strange waves, and then, when he was almost there, he saw a man emerging from the water. Before Ben could come any closer, the stranger raised his hand in a commanding gesture, telling him to stop. The man had a peculiar look. He was middle-aged, muscular, and taller than average, and he had a long, tangled beard. A moment later, the man went underwater. Ben could see the surface churning vigorously. He wanted to get a closer look and see what was going on, but remembering the man's gesture, he continued to keep his distance. After a few seconds, the water began to settle. When it was completely still, the man emerged again and signaled to Ben to come closer. Ben walked forward, and as the sea became gradually deeper, he had to swim to reach the stranger. The water around the man was tranquil, and it also looked somewhat different, like it was glowing slightly. There seemed to be actual ripples forming and vibrating around his presence. Perhaps Ben's eyes were playing a trick on him, but before he could decide, the stranger spoke to him. "I'm in need of your help, young man," the stranger said. His eyes were the color of the ocean. They seemed calm like the surrounding waters, but his expression looked troubled. "A very important possession of mine has gone missing," the man continued, "and I need you to help me find it. It is my golden trident, my most powerful protection against sea monsters." At first, Ben thought that this was a joke, but then he remembered the golden stick that he had seen flying past him. He asked the stranger why he owned a trident. The man looked him in the eye and replied, "I am Poseidon, god of the sea." Ben gaped in amazement. Here, standing right in front of him, was a man who claimed to be a Greek god. Poseidon explained that as the god of the sea, he had command over water. Every sea creature obeyed him. To prove this, he raised his right arm. As he did this, a column of water emerged from the ocean. Then Poseidon moved his arm in a circular motion. The column followed his movements, and the water formed a ring. When he stopped moving his arm, a perfect hoop of water was floating above the sea. Ben gasped, but that wasn't all. Poseidon then made a peculiar sound. A couple of seconds later, Ben spotted a fin emerging from the water a few meters out. It was a dolphin. The dolphin swam fast, and when it was next to Poseidon, it leapt into the air and through the water hoop. It then remained by Poseidon's side, as though greeting an old friend. As Poseidon stroked the dolphin's head, he explained what it meant to be the god of the sea. One of his duties was to protect people from sea monsters. He had just finished dealing with a group of them. Unfortunately, during this encounter, he had lost his trident. His only chance of recovering it was to find it before nightfall. Ben was fascinated. He was deeply moved by Poseidon's powers and sense of duty. He wanted to help the sea god, so he asked what he needed to do. Poseidon said that the trident had been dropped by a sea creature near the coast of Puerto Cristo. This creature would know where it was now. Ben's task was to find this creature and convince it to help him. Although he wasn't sure how he would do this, Ben accepted the challenge. Poseidon told him that the creature lived in an underwater cave not far from the shore. Ben would need to dive to find the entrance. Poseidon summoned a school of fish that would lead him to the cave. Ben took a deep breath, ready to embark on this adventure. With Poseidon's blessing, he dove into the water and followed the fish.